So I'm feeling very under par today. I don't have a flu, I don't have a cold, but my body is aching. And beautifully, actually, kind of the day that I was meant to have has kind of been rescheduled. And so it's like, okay, yeah, life, universe is like, just rest today, Corinne, just rest. And when you don't feel well, and I have never been so unwell this many times. I know it's like probably moving to a different country and new microbiome and all of these things, but I also think like it's just energetically been a really intense year, and both individually and collectively, I think we've all been moving through things, and certainly I've undergone so much change, which has been exciting, but I still have not had that like settling in, right? Settling down and settling in. And I feel like we're in this constant kind of inhalation, waiting for the true exhale. And the true exhale might not come for quite a long time. And so we're learning how to find our breath and how to find our stamina amidst this marathon. And there are times where I feel like this burst of air that comes in that lifts me, and I feel really elated and I'm flying. And then there's the times where you feel like today it's like, oh, I really feel the density of existence. I really feel it because my body's aching. And I think we have to understand the context that I put it in is that we're undergoing so much energetic change, frequency change, and that we really have zero control over. Never mind the whole kind of psychological and emotional stuff that goes on both individually and collectively. So I was thinking this morning of like, your first reaction is like, oh, I don't want to feel unwell. I don't want to feel like this. Like, I don't, right? There's the resistance. We always meet the resistance first. And then it's that kind of being with of like, okay, but what if we were to reframe that when we're not well, it doesn't mean that it's not a bad thing. See, our Western culture has this thing of like, well, you have to fight against this and you have to, mask this and numb that and get rid of this. And it's this constant like being in conflict and this severing and this fragmenting of our experience, and especially our experience with ourselves and with our body. Instead of going, okay, what is my body releasing right now? What is it processing? What is it purging? What is it shedding? What is it letting go of? That actually this is a detox. That whenever we're not feeling well, whatever it is, if it's an injury or if it's an illness or something, there's something that the body is communicating. And what I've really learned is like, okay, surrender, let go, allow it, because it's here, right? But we have this very linear, like, nope, you got to keep on trucking along, living your life as you always live it every single day. And we don't honor the ebb and flow. We don't honor the cycles. So it's like, okay, today my being feels like this. You can probably see it in my energy. You can see it in my face. You can see it in my eyes. And that's okay. So I'm sitting here. I came outside just to have some air, but I'm sitting here just going, okay, what if I just don't resist? Because the resistance is always the unnecessary suffering. The resistance is what creates more fatigue, and I have things in my personal life, like those of you that have been following my journey, like I have this underlying exhaustion because I haven't had home for over a year, and it's still this anticipatory feeling where I can't put roots down. But on a global scale, we're all going through that. Even if you have a home, and even if you have, family and a partner and your community and all of these things, globally, we're going through such massive shifts on all levels, right? On a physical level, emotional level, psychological level, spiritual level, energetic level. And I think this is for me when I really have to, it's not about escaping the body, it's actually about really being in the body, but also remembering what I've shared about that, we are the canvas behind the painting. We are a soul, a spirit, a consciousness, an energy. And so it's like being and moving through the density of the body, not escaping it, but also not getting so stuck in like the quagmire of density sometimes, So it's like this beautiful balance between, okay, I'm both of the earth and like stardust, right? And so how can I how can I tune into both to really feel into, okay, my body needs to go through this and I need to be present with it. I need to allow it. I need to breathe through it and not resist and not fight against and not hold on. You know, letting go is hard. Letting go is hard for the ego, because if it crumbles, it goes, well, I don't exist anymore, right? And we're reinventing. We're, as I've been saying a lot this year, we're remembering, and part of remembering is undoing all of the layers of forgetting, right? The amnesia. We're coming out of the poppy field, I like to say, you know, before you get to Oz. And also just really knowing like that we are that source, that we are part of that source. I think that's what we're remembering and awakening to. And I'm in the middle actually of listening to a podcast where some professor, I'm so terrible with names, I'm so sorry folks, but he did a reverse engineering kind of looking at the DNA of human beings and how old the DNA of human beings is. And it was something like 18 or 19 billion years old. And she's like, oh, but the problem is that the earth is only like, what, 4.8 billion or something like this years old. And so that shows us that like we're not originally from here. And, you know, I know some people think that like I'm kooky when I'm like, yeah, this is not where I'm from. I've just always known that, you know, and some people might be like, yeah, you're crazy or whatever. I don't care. I think we're going to start to recognize this more in these years. And, you know, I think at the very least, at the very, very, very least, even if you don't believe in that, or even if you don't believe in the soul, we are a part of, at the very least, nature. We are a part of something that is greater than us. And so, you know, like when the body is going through something, it's like recognizing that just like nature, there's a cycle, and there's, you know, there's the building up, like the spring, the growth, the crescendo of like the summer, and then the autumn is like the releasing and the shedding, and the winter is like really the cleansing, you know, going internal and finding the deeper roots to create the rebirth again. So recognizing that everything is a cycle and it's never linear and it's never stagnant. And for me, the word that always comes up is like surrender, soften, surrender, allow, accept. Can you love this too? So I think we're undergoing a lot right now, to say the least. I think the most important thing is to always come back to love. Being in fear is just going to create more stress on the body. It's going to break down our immune system. It doesn't help anything. It keeps on perpetuating a similar cycle, and we're coming out of that cycle. We're coming out of fear. We're coming out of lack. We're coming out of scarcity. We're coming out of not being worthy. And someone was saying that was so beautiful is like, you know, when we're disconnected from source, whatever you want to call that, we go into lack because we feel like we're missing what we need, because what we need is to be tapped into source. Again, whatever that connection to source is for you. It could be a tree, it could be God, it could be universe, it could be consciousness, it could be light, doesn't matter, the name doesn't matter, right? All words are far too limiting for the energy of what source is. But when we it's like we unplug ourselves. I don't know why this image has been coming through so much recently of in Avatar, you know, when they have the soul, what is it called, the soul tree, or this tree of the ancestors, and you know they take their hair and they hook it into the tree of life or something like this. And I keep on having this actually when I ground every morning in my meditation. That's what I see, is like this cord that goes in, and then it's like the tentacles come out and they latch into this like beautiful blue white light of this. For me, it's like it comes up as almost like this crystal like stone, massive at the core of the earth. We need something to tap into to draw up our source energy, because without that, and without I'm so mindful when I use the word faith, because I'm not talking about a religious dogmatic faith. I'm talking about a faith in yourself, a faith in who you innately, inherently, intrinsically are, the energy and essence and spirit and soul of who you are. We need to find ways to tap into that, because when we're not tapped into that, you can look at the world and see what the consequence of that is. It's complete fragmentation. It's complete separation and division. You're so much more susceptible to go into fear. You're so much more susceptible to being manipulated. there's so much more anxiety and stress and sadness and anger and frustration, and it brings us into, and then there's no right or wrong or good or bad, right? But it brings us into a state that's not who we truly are. And we've been playing this game of that which we are not, right? And it's been an interesting game, but I think we're kind of like, as I've been saying, we're done with that. We've learned it. Like, this is the school of life. So now can we learn through joy and bliss and thriving and flourishing and expanding and having this human experience, which is very unique and special in a way. I find it a total pain in the ass sometimes, I'm not gonna lie. But having like the divine energetic source in this vehicle, you know, and really coming into the coherence and the alignment and the integration of both, so that we're not just floating on clouds, but we're not also just in the like quagmire of the suffering and struggle and like the density, you know. And it, I will never forget my journey that I had with plant medicine, God, like 13, 14 years ago, where I was having a conversation with the universe, and it was like I really understood that what density was layer upon layer upon layer of experience. And because humans take experience and we kind of almost like solidify it in our cells, like cellular memory holds on to everything, and unless we actually in the moment are alive and like that flowing water, that we're feeling it and breathing through it and processing it in the moment, we stack up density, right? And so I think we're learning to be in density in a fluid way. Does that make sense? Like how to not just like escape into the light body, but not get into the rigidity sometimes of the dense body. So how can the body actually have a kind of water-like malleability, fluidity, not malleability, but fluidity. And I think our brains as well, like this podcast that I was listening to, they're talking about neuroplasticity, of like, it's so important to keep our neuroplasticity. Otherwise we get like, you know, really tunnel vision, and we get really fixed. And the more fixed we get, actually the more afraid we get, because all of a sudden our world becomes really small and really narrow, and then all of the space outside feels like it's scary. Whereas the more you open and you expand, there's the recognizing that you are a part of all of that, that nothing can actually, you know, it's kind of the example that I'm going to use. And I saw this actually with my daughter. We lived in a very small like mountain town for the majority of her childhood. And I could tell at a certain point, I was like, oh, I need to get you out of here, because it was creating that small, no judgment, but, you know, small village mentality. And you become like a gazelle rather than, no judgment on gazelles. Sorry, everyone has to be so like politically correct on here. No judgment on gazelles, but like you forget your tiger legs, your lion legs, you know. And it's like you kind of need to know that you can go out into the jungle, and no matter what comes up, that you can adapt, that you can respond, that you have reflexes, that you have instincts and intuitions. So, you know, I what was happening is that it was becoming so small and so narrow and so safe that everything else then becomes scary, and it creates anxiety. And so, you know, we left and we traveled and we were in Mexico and we had all sorts of shit go on. And it was like, it brings in a confidence. You feel your inner lion again, because you're like, yeah, I can be in the world. I can be of the world and have these adventures. And not like I want them every single day, right? But there is this timidity that happens when our world gets too narrow and too comfortable and too safe. You know, safety is an illusion anyway, or the way that we currently look at it, like safety as defense and protection is a total illusion, right? That's imprisonment. That's not safety. Safety is like, I am in the magnitude and the power of who I am as an eternal, infinite, immortal being, and nothing can touch me, you know? Even if my body gets taken away, I live on, right? So the remembrance of this, and just coming out of fear and coming out of resistance, and coming out of the resistance to pain. So maybe right now we're physically going through things. What would it be like if we allowed ourselves to surrender and soften into it, and to see that that is part of the alchemy, that is part of shedding the density. But you can't change anything unless you first accept it. And so if you accept My body hurts right now. It hurts less, actually, because you relax into it. You let go of fighting it. You let go of resisting it. And so right now, as I'm speaking to you and I'm feeling into my body, it feels actually pretty okay. But it's the moment where I go into tension because I'm like, I don't want to feel like this. It hurts. I don't like it. It doesn't make me feel good. I want to feel something different than what I'm feeling now. Then we're in resistance to the truth of this moment, this present moment. So we're in the school of mastery, my friends. We are in the school of flippin' mastery right now. And we've come at a time that's like hugely intense and amazing and terrible and all of it, you know? And I think we get to choose how we respond to these things. There's all sorts of drama going on. Those guys, they're just still playing out the same juvenile games, and unfortunately at the consequence of humanity. Humanity is always the one that suffers, and with that said, we still get to choose how we respond. We still get to choose how, if we hand over our power. We still get to choose if we go into fear or if we go into love, if we go into separation and division or into unity and collaboration and support and care. I'll do another video about care and love and beauty, but this one's long, so I'll let this one go for now. And just keep remembering who you are, because you're beautiful and you're loved and you are love. Let us not forget that. All right, as always, take it or leave it as feels right for you, and loving you from afar. Bye. Thanks for listening.